Hey, Julie, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure as always. All right, so looking here at a Culture Rated. Boy, Gwyneth Paltrow really bugs you, doesn't
A
she?
little bit.
Really sticks under your craw.
She
A little
does.
bit, I can tell. Yeah, you've written about her quite extensively. Why Gwyneth Paltrow and other celebrities should not be your source for science. First of all, it's kind of sad that we actually have to let people know this.
Yes, indeed, it is. But people do, trust celebrities. People think, well, if they use a particular. I mean, this is why. On Instagram, if a celebrity is wearing your design or using your product, or even in the background, if you see, a particular hand lotion or something, I mean, marketers go crazy with that. They are seen as authorities on things. And look, I don't care. I don't care. Jennifer Aniston sells some sort of water, right? Or she talks about how eye drops helped her with her dry eyes. I don't care about that, but I care about when they get into really complex scientific issues, and that's where it gets dangerous because they can recommend things that are not healthy, nutrition plans that are not healthy, fad diets, that kind of stuff. And Gwyneth Paltrow crosses that line. She gets into recommending things that are very questionable, downright dangerous in many cases, and so, and I'm not the only one. The SciBabe wrote a great piece earlier in the week on, and I'm sorry, I can't remember where it was published, but it's on, you can find it on Twitter, on SciBabe's Twitter feed. She wrote a great piece about Gwyneth Paltrow. So it's not just me. Other people are, trying to call out Gwyneth Paltrow and these other stars who suggest very dubious or make dubious recommendations.
Well, okay, so you talk about before the March for Science was held, Gwyneth Paltrow was tweeting out to her 2.8 million followers, which, by the way, is that's about the size of Fox's primetime audience, right? For a show on Fox, about 2.8 million people.
Yep, significant.
Absolutely. So she's saying you're being poisoned if you wear lipstick, because lipstick has lead in it, and so you got to get the lead out. Don't wear lipstick. You say poppycock.
Yeah, look, I mean, there are cosmetics out there that contain things that seem scary, but they're in such minute amounts. Lead is used as a colorant, and so it is such a tiny amount that it doesn't harm you. You'd have to eat like 5 billion sticks and eat them. You'd have to eat them. First of all, 5 billion sticks of lipsticks for this to cause any sort of harm. And so it frustrates me. And I think this is important to point out. Gwyneth Paltrow is now selling her own line of cosmetics and skincare and other things. So she's definitely using the sort of Jessica Alba marketing method here, where you tell the world that your products are better, that the sort of the things in the drugstore that are affordable, by the way, are harmful, and that your products are much better. And so, I just want to call her out on that, and I think people should. But I go into further detail about some of the other things and why she's not a good source of information. I mean, she's not a good source of information on toxicity levels of, lipstick, but she's also not a good source of information on any health issues. And the stuff that she recommends, from starvation diets to unnecessary colon cleanses, to rid your body of toxins, which your liver actually does for you, without going through the pain. It's really nice that God gave us livers so we didn't have to deal with colon cleanses. Bee stings can help you get rid of scars. She has suggested to women, and I know this is a family show, so I won't go into too much detail, but she has suggested that women should steam very tender parts of their body, and that it helps with hormonal levels. This is not true. One of the things I found on her website, Goop, was telling women, or telling anyone who comes home from a tropical vacation with a parasite, that all they have to do is sit in a bucket of goat's milk. Okay, so that is not actually how you get rid of a parasite. You need to go to the doctor, which is what the CDC recommends, and most normal people would probably go with that recommendation. But again, you see this kind of stuff from Gwyneth Paltrow, and she tells moms, don't put sunscreen on your kids because the sunscreen in the drugstore is toxic. I mean, that's complete hogwash. While then promoting a sunscreen, a natural sunscreen that she sells on her website. So, I think people need to be aware of the total junk and crazy comments that this woman often promotes, and sort of again, check their sources. Don't use. Look, I think there's a lot of common sense people that listen to NRA News that don't get their health information from Gwyneth Paltrow, but there are still some that do. So we're trying to reach those folks.
Yes, I thought the steaming of the Tinder parts, as you said, I thought the advice for guys of ironing their Tinder bits, I thought that was like even worse than steaming. As for sitting in goat milk to draw out the parasites, you probably need to quiet that down because, listen, I haven't gotten my goat yoga off the ground yet, and I could market this myself. We've got dairy goats there at the farm, Julie. So, but this is the quote with the naturopathic physician and homeopath.
Otherwise known as not really a doctor.
Hey, she's got some letters after her name. MD is not one of them. I think ND is one, and PhD. In my experience, she writes, an 8-day mono diet goat milk cleanse accompanied by a specific vermifuge made of anti-parasitic herbs is the most successful treatment. So she didn't say, to be fair, she didn't say bathe in it. She said drink nothing but goat's milk for 8 days.
There is one on that she suggests sitting in it. So there is another one where she does suggest sitting in it. So perhaps we're mixing up. Maybe I added a link to the drink one, but she has suggested sitting in it. And again, you don't find any of these. Well, first of all, you don't find advice from neuropaths on CDC's website. So look, again, check your sources. If you come home from a tropical vacation with a parasite, don't go to Goop for your, which is Gwyneth Paltrow's website. Don't go to Goop to find out how to get rid of it. Go to your doctor. Or maybe go to the CDC's website. That's probably better. I too am a little bit skeptical of government advice in some ways. I'm about to do a panel on skepticism about government advice and how it's. But in many areas, like parasite removal, I think the government is a far better source of information than Gwyneth Paltrow.
Here's another quote. I think this is where she's talking about the goat's milk. She said, my treatment is based on knowledge of the Essenes, a community that lived outside of Jerusalem during biblical times. In those days, when a healer learned of a worm infestation, they would put the patient in a tub of milk until the worms would come out to drink. Parasites love milk.
They love milk. Says. That's right. They love milk.
It doesn't. Yeah. Oddly enough, though, they didn't love milk until that "Milk Does a Body Good for Parasites" ad campaign debuted a few years ago, and since then, parasitic milk consumption's been up like 40%. That's listen. I think this is good advice, but you do bring up, I think, a worthy point in that we're skeptical of almost everything these days, right? We're skeptical of government advice because the government advice seems to change constantly, particularly when it comes to our diet. We've seen this, and you and I have talked about this before. The don't eat fat. Oh, okay, maybe it's not the fat now; it's the salt. Don't eat salt. Well, it's not the salt; it's the sugar. Don't eat the sugar. It's not the sugar; it's the fat. I mean, if you aren't a medical doctor, if you just, eat food, this can be really confusing. And you don't, I think that folks can throw up their hands and discuss and say, I don't know who to listen to. Might as well listen to Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah, and you've got the smugness of the scientific community. Honestly, these March for Science events that happened around the country, you couldn't really tell what exactly they wanted. I guess more funding, ultimately. Which let's keep in mind, it was the Republican-controlled House and Senate that added $2 billion to science funding. So it's interesting. I've seen not a peep from the science communication friends of mine praising the Republicans. They like to say, oh, thanks, Congress. They never, of course, they can't give credit to Republican-controlled Congress, but that's fine. But I think that there is, you're right, there is a lot of confusion about who to trust, who can be trusted. Again, particularly nutrition advice is schizophrenic. Nutrition advice from the government is schizophrenic. They say one thing is bad, and then the next week they'll say it's good, or give it a couple years. And so that is frustrating. But I think there's some pretty common sense rules, and that is, it is nutrition advice in general is very hard. Nutrition science is it's very hard to get good information on nutrition. There's a variety of reasons for that. But we should know that when people have absolutely no educational background, no experience, no professional experience in a field, they probably shouldn't be giving really detailed medical advice. That's dangerous. And the problem too is that, here I am saying, well, you should really go to the experts. And then you have people like Dr. Oz, who's a very well-respected cardiologist, who then sells, diet supplements and pushes these conspiracy theories. So it's really tough out there. I'm not, I think discernment is really important, but it's hard to discern who's a good source and who's a bad source. But all I can do is criticize Gwyneth Paltrow every couple months and remind people that she indeed is not a good source for information.
Talking again with Julie Gunlock from the Independent Women's Forum about why you should not listen to. So, are there any celebrities that you would trust, Julie?
No,
not at all.
No, I said something in the beginning of my piece where I said it's not just because many celebrities are developmentally delayed, and I'm not kidding about that. I mean, I think these people, they make some movies, they make a lot of money, and it's not like I don't see a lot of them really furthering their education. Many of them, these young stars, they make it big and they're done. But the other reason is that many of these celebrities surround themselves with sycophants. These are paid for friends, hairdressers, stylists, spouses in some cases. Their whole staffs are paid, and yet they're also sort of friends. And what do these people do? They compliment them. Oh, you're so wonderful. Oh, you know all. And so what happens, I think, with a lot of celebrities is they are incapable of self-doubt. They are incapable of self-examination and of thinking that they're wrong about something. So, of course, they get these sort of complexes, like they're experts in everything. And so that's why I think that you should not trust these people. I don't think you should really, look, I don't think you should trust them on much of anything.
All right. Listen, Julie, I always appreciate you joining us on the program. I'm going to still trust you, though.
That's good. I'm not a celebrity. There. See? But this thing, I often don't say like, oh, you should trust me on these issues. I often try to cite qualified people, nutritionists, doctors, medical professionals, scientists who are studying these issues. That's important. I'm not sort of setting myself up as the expert on these things.
Not until you come out with Gloop, your...
I'll think of a much better name than Goop or any variation of it. It's so stupid.
It is kind of stupid. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't trust anybody who called their company Goop.
Right.
I mean, that would just be a deal breaker for me right there.
Yeah, exactly. Deal breaker. Exactly.
Julie, thank you so much for coming on the program. It's always good talking with you today.
Thanks for having me.